And we are live.
Ladies, gentlemen, underground mole people, welcome back to the Rabbit Hole Podcast, where we do mediocre research and give our unwanted opinion on a subject that you don't care about. Last week, we got into simulation theory, black holes, space travel, the cloud, a couple other things. I think we at the end of last week's episode, we kind of started to get into cryogenics a little bit.
We fell
Uh,
way down the hole.
yeah, So we're just kind of gonna roll off that subject again to this week. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm personally gonna talk a little bit about some time travel kind of stuff and maybe some more cryogenic kind of things. Um, and yeah, that's
Awesome. I'm super excited to continue this. I think last week we, like I said, we definitely went way down the hole on this one. But there's so many different branches on this too that we can just find a hole and go down that one for a little bit and come back and then go down another one. There's just so much different stuff you can do with this. Really, a lot of options. I think that when we stopped last week, we were talking about um, cryogenically freezing and how that could be used as kind of a simulation hypothesis example to say that we were, um, or that it was going to be used, simulation was going to be used in a manner in which when you cryogenically freeze somebody, you upload their brain or their consciousness into a cloud server or something like that to create a simulation so that you wouldn't essentially your brain wouldn't decay as you travel. And I
mhm.
think that's kind of where we left off last week.
Yeah. So basically, like cryonics is kind of the practice of freezing people. Usually it's only done after you're clinically dead. But yeah, I think the argument that we were kind of making is that we would be frozen specifically so our brain wouldn't atrophy.
Hmm.
Uh, basically, so you could, because if you are thinking, even if it is in a simulation type thing or a video game, basically, if you're using critical thinking, problem solving skills, stuff like that, even though your uh, body itself is not moving, you're not sending those um, brain waves or whatever
Hmm.
to the rest of your body if those nerves aren't interacting, then at least your brain's still interacting, so it stays
Right.
intact. And I think we can all kind of agree that's kind of the most important part of us is the brain.
Definitely.
Well, that's part of to go with the just to go back to what you were saying about the cryogenics or whatever, how they freeze after death.
Hmm.
There are times where people have, say, cancer or some terminally ill disease where they will get frozen so that they can be thawed back out at a time whenever we actually know how to cure. So
Hmm.
that's not, I mean, that's definitely not something that's not uncommon. I mean, they are freezing people that are alive still.
Isn't that what they did to Austin Powers?
Yeah, I think ain't that.
Freeze him so he could defeat Doctor Evil when Doctor Evil came out of the time loop.
Yeah,
But
but
actually, as crazy as that sounds, Austin Powers does give a pretty decent example of um, a time travel continuum where you would or wouldn't affect the past based on the way you travel in time. I don't know. That's a whole other topic to get into at another time. I'm just saying. Austin Powers, time travel.
well, that would go along with our the multiverse theory, though, right? I mean, it would correlate to like if you did go back in time and you did anything differently, it would branch off, and the
Create a
future
new
would have,
tree.
yeah. So like it would start, the timeline would move forward the exact same way in
Hmm.
one, and a slight difference in another, right?
Hmm.
So instead of, say, if you, what's a good example here? Say you go back in you buy a lottery ticket, and you
Hmm.
continuously go back in time and change one number each time.
Hmm.
There's going to be a million of them where you didn't win it, right? But there's
Hmm.
that one you changed just enough numbers that it took you off this way, and your life is going to spiral in a completely different way. You're going to be probably rich. You're going to, I don't, that's a tangent that has nothing to do with simulation theory, but
I see what you're saying, though.
yeah, like multiverses and
Hmm.
multi dimensions and everything of the such.
So, time travel. Is that what we're gonna get into now?
Are we wanting to
Let's
are we wanting to do that?
let's do it. Let's dive.
Okay, so I think everybody kind of knows what time travel is. It's the idea that you can travel through time, hence the
Forwards or
term
backwards?
time travel, forwards or backwards, yeah. And so there's some urban legends about time travel here. Let me get on the correct Wikipedia page. Just give me one sec here.
I think that a lot of time travel too gets almost made out to be this ambiguous, unobtainable thing too. Like it's like this so outlandish thing that it could never possibly happen. When in all actuality, it's really not as outlandish as it's made out to be. I mean, yes, it is like a absolutely mind-boggling thing, but I mean, it's something that eventually we will probably be able to do.
Well, that's one of the theories is that if time travel is real, you're only going to be able to go back as far as when it was first discovered, right? So you can only go back to the starting point of time travel. You could not go further because it didn't exist. So it's not possible for that to be back there
Deep.
without creating some
So you're
wild
saying
time loop or
that, like,
something.
okay, I get what you're saying. Kind of like think of time travel as like a math problem or like a physics equation or
Hmm.
something like that. You would not be able to go before a time where we solved that physics equation or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when you fire a bullet, it comes out
Hmm.
of the barrel and it continues and it continues and it continues, right? If you were to backtrack, that bullet could not go any further than when it was fired,
So you only go back
right?
to the trace point.
Yeah, so you can only go back to the moment it happened. You couldn't go any further. I mean, I guess that's not the best description because you could follow the bullet back to when before it was, but uh, essentially though, I mean, it's
I
you.
see what you're saying.
Okay. So I'm on my page here. Time travel. The picture that's pretty famous is time traveling hipster.
Yeah, that's one of my
I don't know if you
favorites.
guys have seen that before or
Yeah.
not, but it's a dude that looks probably in his late 20s, early 30s, standing amongst a crowd of people in 1941 at the grand reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Gold Bridge, British Columbia. Now, people think this is a time traveler kind of thing because in the crowd of people he's standing amongst, it's a bunch of people wearing 1940s period style clothing,
Hmm.
fedoras, suits, that kind of thing. And he's standing there in sunglasses, which did they even have sunglasses back then?
I mean, I did not think that there was tinted optical lenses at that point in time. I have not seen any historical evidence. I mean, because I
When
can
was a
remember like,
sunglass created? That's the next question.
well, I can look that up for you. You want to continue describing the guy, and I'll look that up.
1929 is when sunglasses were
Okay.
invented, but
I mean, but that's only
I don't think they were
11,
mass
what,
produced at that point in
11
time.
years before, 12 years before.
But anyways, he's wearing a graphic T-shirt, which kind of looks like it's got an M or something like that on it. a zip up like hoodie type jacket thing, sunglasses. He's just not wearing period style correct clothing. Which is just not. I mean, it just doesn't. He doesn't fit in. Um, Debate centers on whether the image generally has been photoshopped. Oh, so it's still on. Like it's been the photo's been reviewed many times by countless experts, and no one can tell for sure if it is um, photoshopped or not. So that's just one example of some time travel legends.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good ones, especially from that time point in like the 20s, 30s, 40s, where it looks like it's a modern person in a historic backdrop. The one thing that gets me about that one, I do love that example. The one thing that gets me about that is so it's say 2045 and I've just booked my time traveling vacation. I'm not going to the grand opening of a bridge in British Columbia. Right? So that's the one thing about that one that makes me go, I don't know.
Well, what if so? What if
It's
with
personally
time travel?
significant.
Well, you can't actually. What if you can't actually
You don't get to
affect
pick.
anything? Right? You're there.
Ooh.
That too, I guess, to be, but you can't actually physically affect anything, right? You go back, you're there, but your actions literally have nothing. You leave no trace, I guess, other than the
You're just kind of
picture.
like a fly on the wall.
Basically, like you
Okay.
literally blend in. And before any other time, right, there was no cameras,
Hmm.
so it wasn't ever captured. Nothing ever changed. People were exploring and seeing stuff, and then there's a camera,
Hmm.
and people are able to capture it on camera and such.
That's
So
interesting.
something that I've kind of always thought about with time travel is there has to be some sort of anchor. So, for example, we would not be able to time travel to what's a good example here? Something that is buried in dirt right now or that has fallen apart. We would not be able to travel back in time to the Roman Colosseum
Uh, Bad
because
example,
we
but
have
the Coliseum's still standing, but
yeah, but not like in its
entirety.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. That is a poor example, I guess.
I
So,
understand what you're saying though.
anyways, I don't
Something
really
that's
have a good
deteriorated
perfect
beyond point of
yeah.
us
So if it's
obtaining. Yeah.
yeah, just say there's an old yeah, Ti- Titanic, I guess would be
Yeah.
a good
Titanic would
example.
be a
Yeah.
great example. Yeah.
Um, we've never seen the Titanic floating, so we would not be able to time travel back to being on the Titanic floating in the water because we were not there.
Hmm.
So I, f- I feel like he's at this bridge in Goldbridge, British Columbia or whatever.
Hmm.
Now, the shirt that he's wearing is it's speculated to be a Montreal Maroons t-shirt. So, which would say that he's from the area. So he's
Hmm.
from Canada at least. So maybe he's been to this bridge before,
Okay. I see it.
and
I
so
like
that's his
this.
anchor to if he's been to the bridge before in present time, he can hook to that bridge while he's traveling through the wormhole or whatever, and
Okay. I
that's
see it.
his anchor that can pull him out, kind of thing. So imagine he's like stuck in the current of time travel, and he has to have some sort of anchor that he can reach out and grab a hold, like physically grab a hold of, to pull him into a reality again. And that's kind of the thing.
I like that.
So like, I've never seen the pyramids before, but if I was to go to Egypt, look at the pyramids, commence time traveling, then I would be able to eventually hit that point where the pyramids were being built or whatever, and use that as my anchor to pull myself out.
So, okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Sorry, it took me a second to kind of wiggle my mind around it. But
Have
you're
you ever
saying
seen the
like,
movie? What's that movie called? Jumper?
yeah, jumper.
Jumper.
Yep.
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 Where yeah, the dude just jumps around wherever he
Mhm.
wants to go. Kind of like, but he can only jump to places that he can physically picture in his mind.
Yeah.
Kind of like
So that's like
that.
so that's kind of like in Dragon Ball Z, like he's got the. I mean, I know what's called for now. Now that I'm trying to bring it up, I can't instant transmission or something like that, where he can only travel. Like he can instantly go somewhere, but he can only go there if he knows somebody there, right? He can
Right.
only travel to somebody specifically,
He has to
right?
have that
Yeah.
anchor.
And maybe you haven't even physically been there before. Maybe you've looked at it in a brochure or something like that.
Right.
But there has to be some sort of connection with it. And that's kind of, well, I mean, that's really the only way that I can explain the whole showing up at a random bridge opening in 1941
So
is it's kind of a
let
mixture between what CJ said and what I'm saying is like maybe you don't get to choose your destination. You're just traveling, you're in this current, you're being sucked underwater kind of thing, and you're just trying to grab a hold of the branch that's floating over the river.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his branch,
Okay.
was the
so have
bridge.
you Lock and Key on Netflix?
Have not. No. I know the. I know the. What it's about though.
Like they each get they can find you can find keys around this manor, and they each have their own power and such. There's one that you put it into a door, and when you open the door, it opens a door anywhere else, right? As long as you can picture where you want to go, right? That door, you can go there.
Okay.
So I see that being similar. Like that's just another similar
My
way of explaining that.
whenever I think of logical, I mean, logical explanations of time travel or logical or even probable scenarios, my mind always goes to a movie called Timeline. It's actually it has Paul Walker and Gerard Butler and Billy Connolly, but it's about these historians who are working at this site in France, and essentially this time rift opens, and they get pulled through this rift back into the same location, but 500 years beforehand, and it drops them. Just happens to be like right in Denver, like Joan of Arc and that whole battle was going on. But that's kind of more where I see, kind of like you're saying, where you can't just pick and choose your place. It's probably going to be right where you're at. A certain amount of time passed because we're essentially just opening a hole in the time continuum and going through that hole. So you're not moving left or right. You're moving up or down. Does that make sense?
But you're not moving. You're moving time.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Yes. Yes.
But I guess
Okay.
also with that there could come danger too, right? So if you
Oh yeah.
were standing on a building that say that's hundreds of feet in the air, and
Hmm.
you travel back 500 years, that building's not probably going to be there anymore.
Right.
It's not going to be there anymore, and you're going to plummet,
Hmm.
and there goes your trip.
Or like if I go from where I'm sitting right now and I time travel 10,000 years back, I'm going to be 150 foot under a sea. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, exactly that would be my exact situation. So I'm not time traveling over 500 years from my exact point.
Um, we can kind of think about time as how we explained it previously with the whole space travel thing, whereas time runs kind of in a circle, maybe.
Hmm.
and or maybe not a circle, but like think of like a heartbeat, where it's got like the up and down kind of
Right.
zigzag motion thing, hills, waves, whatever.
Waves is a very good word to use there.
Waves, yeah. So it's got kind of the waves. And instead of time traveling, or, well, I'll put it back into the terms we used before when we were discussing aliens and how they would space travel, is they wouldn't just run along this straight line because that would take too long, right? They would um, kind of move, like you said, vertically, I guess, more up and down, kind of, and like skip time basically instead of traveling through time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You.
so they would
I mean,
bend.
you
They
guys know
need
what
to
I'm
go.
saying because we explained it earlier, but
Well, it's kind
I
of
don't
like
know.
the
I'm trying to
wormhole
put it in
theory,
better
right?
terms.
You're going. Well, you're on a plane, and instead of moving forward, because that would take too long, you take the other end of the plane and you bend it to above it, and you move up, right? So you get to the same point at an eighth of the time.
Yeah. Kind of like that's, and isn't that what they do? That's the Star Trek, the hyperdrive, is it condenses time around it, and then you go through. It's almost like if I was to take this piece of paper and instead of going straight across it, I'm going to bend it in half and I'm going to punch through it and go the same distance as if I had if I had traveled
Yeah,
in a straight line.
your A and B point are gonna be the same, but you're not covering the same distance, kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Like your starting point and your destination are being moved closer together,
It's like the
but
wormhole theory.
yeah. I think people are gonna understand what I'm saying. I'm just confusing myself now.
Well, that's commonplace. You'll be all right.
But yeah. Anyways, with another thing that kind of fascinates me about time travel is the fact that there's so much research that's gone into it.
Oh, there's abundance.
Like we've mentioned before, Die Glock, which was
hmm
the purported Nazi time machine
hmm
um, that they were building.
Yes.
Something else is the Montauk Project,
hmm
which was a project that the Air Force did on Montauk, Long Island.
hmm
And the rumors are that they were experimenting with, the Air Force was experimenting with time travel there.
That's the Stargate location, right? The supposed
Montauk?
Stargate in Montauk. Yeah.
I don't know. It's referred to as it's kind of like it kind of wraps in with the Philadelphia experiment. There's a lot of
hmm
people that think they're the same thing, but like different time periods, I guess.
Yeah.
Like they're the same kind of projects. They were just continued in different locations. But there's just a bunch. There's all sorts of like physics research on it and stuff like that. Quantum physics and all sorts of stuff that I don't really understand anything about. But the Krasnikov tube, these are something that people. I'm not gonna just read off a wiki page. Um, I'll just read a short description. A Krasnikov tube is a speculative mechanism for space travel involving the warping of space-time into permanent superluminal. Did I read that right? Superluminal tunnels.
hmm
The resulting structure is analogous to a wormhole, with the endpoints displaced in time as well as space. So that's kind of what we were mentioning earlier. The Krasnikov tube is kind of an explanation of that,
Yeah.
where endpoints are moved through space as well as time to basically cut down on the time that it takes to reach one point to the
Right.
other.
Essentially the same concept as the punching the hole through the paper.
hmm there's the Wheeler-Feynman absorber theory, which I read through this already, and it's got some big words in it that I can't really understand. So the mediocre research is going to play a part into that, and y'all can do your own research on it. But retrocausality or backwards causation is a concept of cause and effect in which an effect precedes its cause in time, and so a later event affects an earlier one.
Butterfly effect?
Yeah, what's that's basically saying, an effect precedes its cause in time,
Uh-huh.
so a later event affects an earlier one. So it's the butterfly effect, but backwards.
Okay. Okay. Tracking.
So like, um, it's hard to explain. So like, if you did something today and then time traveled back, 30 years or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that what you did today affected something that happened 30 years ago. Which there is, I mean, whenever you get into time travel, you'll hear a lot about paradoxes
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And that's kind of where you get into like the whole like, don't go back in time and kill baby Hitler
Right. Because you're going to
because
create a worse
yeah,
thing.
you're gonna create, like you said, that butterfly effect,
Mm-hmm.
which will, could cause all sorts of other different problems
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't even know would have existed.
Right.
This retrocausality thing or backwards causation is kind of saying the same thing but backwards,
Okay.
hence backwards causation. It's a really strange idea
Well, it's like
and theory,
I guess like
but
a dumbed down way of explaining that would be that because you did this, you had to have done this, 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 and that for it to happen, right?
yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way.
Like,
That's
yeah,
good.
to be able
Because
to I don't know.
because I closed my fridge door
Yeah,
today, I had to have had bought the fridge, bought the
yeah,
house, and worked to be able to have the money to right.
uh
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, I like that.
So you've
yeah.
seen
I think that's what
just
that's
real
saying.
quick that NASA has proved time travel.
Oh, really? Where you reading that at?
Yeah, on NASA's website itself, it says we all travel in time. We travel 1 year in time between birthdays, for example, and we are all traveling in
Oh, ha
time
ha
at
ha ha.
approximately the same speed, 1 second per second.
You turd.
I just thought that was funny.
That's not time travel.
I mean, technically,
That's
it's
just
time travel. You're traveling through time.
technically it's time travel. We talked about paradoxes. There's there's a lot more different kinds of paradoxes than I thought. Uh, two main groups of paradoxes, though. We'll do causal loop
Mm-hmm.
and grandfather paradox.
Okay.
So I'll just read through that real quick. A causal loop is a paradox of time travel that occurs when a future event is the cause of a past event, which in turn is the cause of the future event. Both events then exist in space-time, but their origin cannot be determined. A causal loop may involve an event, a person, an object, or information. The terms bootstrap paradox, predestination paradox, or ontological paradox are sometimes used in fiction to refer to a causal loop. Y'all want to try to explain that one? Because I don't even know what I just said.
So essentially, that the paradox that you would create by changing something would essentially be almost like a wormhole. You would. Oh my god. Okay. So as it
We
changes,
are really confusing ourselves on this one.
because it changes.
Maybe we should get off the time travel subject.
So I think I got it though. I think I figured it out though. Okay. So because subject A changes, that makes subject B change, which in turn makes C all the way down through Z, and then Z makes A change.
Well, that would understand the loop part of the name.
Exactly. So you would be creating your own paradox, essentially Groundhog Day. You would be creating your own Groundhog Day by changing these events, because the event changing would create you changing the event. Or like, okay, I know that's really hard to explain, but the fact that you changed it in the first place is why. God, that's so hard to explain. I'm trying to think of like some pop culture reference to this. I know, like, I understand the concept of what it's saying. I just can't think of like a good reference into where.
I mean, that just goes to show you, though, the fact that we can't, like, even. There's literally. I literally read a definition, and I still don't understand how to put it into, like, layman's terms, so to say. Because we're not
CJ
intelligent.
terms?
We just do mediocre research, like we said.
Where's your
But-
PhD, guy?
I'm working. Hold on, I'm working.
But that just goes to show you the amount of what's the word I'm looking for? The amount of research that has gone into this kind of stuff, and the amount of like brain power that's been put into it. The fact that they can create this theory of a causal, I think I said casual loop. It's called a causal, like causing something loop.
Mhm.
Like the fact that someone could come up with that theory and put a like a definition to it kind of astonishes me. But grandfather paradox is kind of the one that we all understand and that we all know about.
What's actually in pop culture too, because if you look at like Futurama, when he travels in time, when he goes back in time and becomes his own grandpa,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that's basically what the grandfather paradox says. It's like if you go back in time and you change the timeline, change the history of any way, then it's going to create a contradiction in your current future. So if you go back in time and kill your grandpa, then your parents can never be born, or at least your parents as you know them
Right.
can not be born, Therefore, you could not be born. Therefore, you don't exist in the future, so you no longer exist in the past, and
well, that's the thing though with like the grandfather, or with the traveling back in time to become your own grandfather.
I think I actually just I think I actually just explained causal loop, and I didn't mean to. Okay, hold on. Give me a second here. So it kind of mixes in with the grandfather paradox, except it continues in a loop.
Yes.
So you go back in time, kill your grandfather, so therefore you cannot exist in the future. So therefore, since you cannot exist in the future, you cannot come back and kill your grandfather in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But since you can't go back,
Therefore,
in time to
since
kill
you
your
can't go back in
grandpa,
time and kill your grandfather because you don't exist, therefore you do exist
therefore you
because
can
you
go.
never went back and killed your
And then you get the causal
Yeah.
loop where
Yeah,
it's
that's
ever
the
changing.
causal loop.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good. That's
Where literally, well, it would turn it to where literally nothing changes then.
or
Right.
everything
Or every
is
ghost
constantly
changes.
changing.
What's the right answer here? We need a time traveler.
I think.
If anybody's
I
listening
think.
and has time traveled before, we could obviously use some help.
I think it's everything is constantly changing. I think that it would
Also,
erode the
FBI,
fabric.
if you're listening, next episode, probably gonna have a time traveling dude on here. So
Yeah, probably so. I think it would erode like the whole fabric of reality, honestly. And I think that we would like get into a reverse Big Bang situation where everything just implodes upon itself.
Circle back. Simulation theory. Is that what happened? Is
And
that
we're
why we're in
back.
the simulation?
That we had a causal loop that created a implosion, and now
That
we're in.
created like, yeah,
Huh.
basically like, um, I've personally never done it before. I've personally never seen it happen before, but you know how I've seen it in like a movie or something like that, where if you like try to rewind and fast forward a tape a bunch or whatever like that, it gets all jumbled up and all the tape comes out of it and
Right.
you have to like rewind it or whatever. What if we did that or someone did that in the space-time kind of thing?
And that's what's got us all jacked up. That's
Yeah,
what.
caused a causal loop and everything was changing all the time and it just started happening quicker and quicker and quicker. Before you know it, our time just kind of crumples down. Then we just get stuffed in a simulation. I don't know.
And we're just. And. Okay. So, theoretically thinking about this for a second.
So this
Using
just proves we have
every-
no idea what we are ever talking about. And we're just as confused as everybody else.
Well, I'm trying to wrap my brain around a concept that what would that look like around us, right? So,
Constant changing?
yes. Would it be the Mandela effect?
It could be. It could be. I think that could be a lot of it. That could explain a lot of stuff.
I mean, also I think
Or-
glitch in the system would be a huge thing as well. You'd have your causal loop would cause
Deja
essentially
vu sort of.
Yeah. That's a big one though. Is like with
I'm about
deja
to
vu.
cry.
Is that
I'm thinking about this so hard.
I think
Yeah, like a deja vu
The way-
kind of thing. Like,
Yes.
a causal loop would basically like erase you and put you back in the same spot continuously over and over and over and over again. So, say you said one thing, you were erased in space-time, and then you were put back in space-time again in the next timeline or whatever, and you're saying the same thing again, but that subconscious mind, which was just, I don't know where it went, what it did, or whatever. That's another question that I'm going to ask you in a second. You say the same thing again that you did in the previous timeline or whatever, and so that's where you get that deja vu kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think deja vu would more align with the multiverse theory, right? So with the specific theory is where like when you die, you don't actually die. You go to the closest what's form like your closest consciousness that's in a parallel dimension or whatever, right? So you don't die, you just go to the next body and take over from there. That's why you experience some of the same stuff, because you are slightly behind the one before you.
Okay, I understand. Okay, yeah, I got it. What you're saying is that your consciousness is you were pushed from one plane of existence to this plane of existence, or one realm of existence to this realm of existence, or one universe to this universe, but that universe was ahead of this universe.
And you're essentially running down the exact same path with slight variations every so often, right? So every so often it wiggles a little and it's a little different. Or I
So
guess
you're saying there's a multiple me's out there.
Yes. And they're
That's
all doing
not
the exact
good.
no, no, and they're all doing the exact same thing, right? Except sometimes when you open the fridge, instead of getting a beer, one of them gets a water.
Congratulations, I'm proud of you.
Well, that me's a
But
dork, and I don't like him.
well, I think actually though, the more I'm explaining this, the more I'm getting to
Oh,
where
beer and water.
uh
Christian's
deja vu.
consciousnesses have converged.
They have. I
He's
have.
now the super brain.
Yes, I have my get drunk while hydrating consciousness going. Beer and water.
But okay, so deja vu. Now that I've explained it that way, is actually making more sense to me, being that all of the timelines are running are running this way, and when they merge, you have deja vu, and then they split back out, and they do a thing.
Mm.
I have deja vu like all the time. So what's that mean?
I do too. I notice it like all the time when I'm like, I'll be like talking to somebody, and then I'll just have like this weird like pause, and I'm like, man, I really feel like I've said that before. Like,
Yeah, like I probably have a daily.
and not that I've
occurrence.
just like, not that I've just like said that before, because obviously you repeat the same freaking words,
Mhm.
but like I feel like I've had that moment, like.
So
And it'll be like a trigger word too, is the thing.
Mhm.
Like it won't be the whole conversation. It'll be with this one specific trigger word, and it like hits me.
Right.
to go even further on that, I have it, and
Oh, that's not
then
good.
I remember the next 30 to 40 seconds that's going to happen, right? So I'm like, whoa, deja vu. This is about to happen. This is about to happen. This is about to happen. And then it never happens. But I'm like,
Or
every time,
Or it does
I'm like,
happen.
well, yeah. But that's where I'm like,
And you're
it's
Denzel
where
Washington in New Orleans in 2004. If anybody's ever seen
I
that
don't
movie.
I don't understand the reference.
There's a movie called Deja Vu with Denzel
I gathered that.
in 2004 in New Orleans
Uh-huh.
where he has deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, deja vu is like kind of like short time travel occurrence where he can get put back like anywhere within the last 24 hours
Mm-hmm.
and affect the timeline, but he has to have been there. So it's kind of like a technological explanation of deja vu. Watch the movie, great movie, Denzel. I've never seen a bad Denzel movie though, really.
Oh, I'm gonna go back on what you were saying earlier about how you say something and you feel like you can predict like the next 30 seconds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that, but late, if that makes sense. Like I'll say something and I'm like, I knew that was like, I don't know, it's a weird feeling because like in my head I'm like, I knew that was gonna happen. Like I knew I was gonna say that. It's like I predicted it, but it was like behind, which is the story of my
Well,
life.
I've had it before, but I've had it to where it happens, and then I'm like, specifically, I've had like bad news that was about to come out of it. Like it happens, and I'm like, I get filled with dread because I'm like, I know exactly what's about to happen next, and it's gonna be, I'm about to get this phone call that this happened, and just everything like that.
Interesting.
And then it never does. I don't think it's ever done. I don't think it ever has.
But do you think, okay, so do you think that feeling that you're getting of the next 30 seconds in time, do you think that is what's happening in one of the other multiverses? Or one of the other
So I think I'm see.
planes?
That's why it helps me too. Is that it's like that. Like I've just been slung back into a different body,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it happens again, and I'm waiting for what's about to happen next, and then it doesn't, of course, because that's where the dimensions branch, right? So the other one ended because this set of things just happened, and I remember it happening, but because it didn't happen, I get to continue on in this one, right? So deja vu essentially being a snap back, different point where you're safe and everything else didn't happen.
Are you saying like a quick save?
Essentially, yeah.
So you're saying so layman's terms, I'm going along and God, I'm
So
I
say
going.
have
this,
no
right? So,
idea what's happening right
So
now.
so I think what he's saying here. Let me get this out 'cause I think I know what he's saying. So what he's saying is I'm walking down the road, okay, and I hear a car coming up behind me.
Hmm.
Okay, that car hits me and I die.
mhm.
But I get thrown back to the nearest point in which I could have said, "Oh, I better take a step to the right."
Mm.
And I take a step
Or
to the
even,
right.
well, not even that. So even you're
'Cause
walking
that's like
down the
Final
road.
Destination.
Yeah, yeah. That movie might have shaped my life. I don't know. Uh,
Turns out everything's
but
been
so
explained already.
you're
I see where
walking
you do
down the
your
road.
research.
Pop culture.
You're walking down the road, and you hear someone honk the horn,
Okay.
and you get hit, right?
With deja vu or with the
Well,
car?
with the car, and
Okay.
then you snap back to the exact same point, or very similar point, as closely similar as you can get, and you're walking down the road again, and you hear the horn, and you brace for it, and you're like, oh, I'm about to get hit, and then you turn and look,
Oh.
and it's someone honking the horn at a car in front of them, right? So that has changed, but you still remember the exact sound, knew what was going to happen, even though it didn't happen.
Now I will to further your theory here. I will say that every time that I've had an occurrence of deja vu, I have had some kind of overwhelming emotional response to that occurrence. Whether it's I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel scared of the situation, there's always some kind of overwhelming emotional response for me.
I mean, typically every time I have deja vu, it ends with me the next 30 seconds of my life are just filled with dread, waiting for something to happen like something bad to
Hmm.
happen. And it could
See, I don't
literally, I
get that.
mean,
I do get that.
Mine's always like the weirdest, slightest, like most insignificant thing ever. Like honestly, one that I remember the most that has stuck with me for years is I was at the Walnut Festival one year, and I don't even remember what year it was, but I was young, like probably fifth or sixth grade, and I remember saying something to. So we were on the corner of the square there in between the bank and the courthouse, and I was
Hmm.
walking with a group of people, and I remember saying something to Carrie Deckard. I specifically remember saying something to her as she was turning and walking towards the that big slide that they used to have where you go down on the potato sacks or whatever,
Yeah.
the big blow up one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
She was turning and walking towards that, and I remember saying something to her. I don't remember what I said, but I do remember that I said it to her. I said it as she was turning and walking away. I remember it was at the Walnut Festival. It was, I was that age
Hmm.
area. Yeah, I remember all that stuff like that. I don't remember what I said though, but I do remember it being like a deja vu moment. I remember after I said it, I paused for a second and it hit me like, man, I've said that before, kind of thing. Like
Now,
I've
was there
been
any
in this
emotional
I've
response
been in
there?
this moment. No, it was literally just like a that was weird. Like I've been in this
Hmm.
moment before, and I just carried on. You know, there was no like emotional connection with it whatsoever. No, it was literally an insignificant like we weren't even having a conversation. I literally said like see you later or something like that. And it was something simple and completely insignificant, but I do remember it registering in my mind as like I've been in this time. I've been in this moment before. Like I've been here. I've said that thing to that person while they were doing this exact thing. I don't know. It's super weird.
You know,
But
this would
that's like
be
the
a good study for us to say, you know, like to reach out to our audience and say, hey, maybe we'll create like some kind of poll or something on Facebook or something. But I'm really curious now if people have if anybody else has an overarching emotional response to deja vu. So I'm gonna put something out there and get some answers.
Yeah, I would like to know because it's happened multiple times in my life, but that is like maybe that's the first time that I remember it ever happening or something. But that's honestly the only time that I remember it like, and it was hard. Like it was significant. Like it was a very insignificant conversation, but it was a really significant feeling. If that
Okay,
makes
so I just
sense.
pulled my co-host in here, my lady friend. She says that she also does get an emotional response to deja vu.
Mine, I mean, I can tell you that when it happens to me, my heart rate it goes up. Like I literally get filled with like adrenaline, I guess.
Yeah, adrenochrome.
Mhm, yeah. It is genuinely. I hate deja vu. I hate when I have deja vu because it literally, for the next minute of my life, I'm just sitting there just waiting like something bad's about to happen,
You
and I
know,
know it.
I do, like I've said, I have a different emotional response, whereas I'll like sometimes I might be happy, sometimes I might be sad. I never have been comfortable with a deja vu feeling. I always feel extremely uneasy whenever it comes
I
on
I have
and on
never had
edge.
a happy deja vu. It has been everything that's ever happened has been something bad. Is
Maybe you guys need to like get together with your other dudes living in those other universes and have a conversation. Because my guy's still picking up the beer, if you know what I'm saying.
So will DMT get me there?
I'm
Are we
thinking
gonna?
here.
Did we get into DMT? Did we get into DMT last time? Have we gotten to DMT yet?
We've
I feel
we've
like that's a whole
Yeah,
episode in
we've
itself is psychedelics.
we've touched DMT a little bit.
we've touched it. Yeah, because but we touched it with the
Oh,
gods,
I
didn't
do
we?
Mhm.
remember. Yeah, we talked it because
Yeah.
everybody sees the same thing on DMT.
I
Anyways,
think our I think me and Christian's other halves or other percentages are probably a little too stupid and they do stuff they shouldn't be
Yeah,
doing.
they're probably all dead.
you guys keep walking in front of
Exactly.
We're
cars
the
and
la-
shit.
we're the last we're
Yeah.
the last chance.
Dwindling down a
That
lot.
sucks.
And yours
That's not good.
yours just lives a happy little life where he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'll take a shot of water to stay hydrated." And we're like, "I'm gonna step in front of this car and see what happens."
Yeah. Or we're like doing Jaeger bombs during the first podcast episode.
Having to redo the first, yeah.
I want to release that sometime. I
I
want to
don't.
release that podcast
I
as like
don't
a
think we
1 year
should.
anniversary.
Yeah, I don't think we should. The only thing I want to release of it is the 15 minutes of screaming because I think that would be funny. But
So let's kind of loop back, pull back. What's our overarching topic here? Time travel. um,
I think
kind of loop back into how this all relates to time travel. And for me,
started off as simulation theory, and here we are.
here we are at time travel, and now we're at deja vu and the multiverse. And I think that what this goes to show me, if not anything else, what this helps prove to me is how all of this is so intertwined with one another. Because we can't have this conversation and just talk about time travel. Or we can't have this conversation or just talk about deja vu or just talk about the multiverse. You have to talk about all of these things in correlation to one another because they all support one another.
Yeah,
that's
when you start talking about space and time, there's so many different things that fit into that. Time travel, space travel, uh, different universes, different like there's so many different little like key things
Mhm.
that fit into that, and not only fit into that, but kind of work off of each other.
Mhm.
Like we said with the time travel and the space travel thing, kind of working together to get you to a point
Yeah.
quicker. Um, yeah, it all kind of relates and intertwines. And I don't think you can really have one without the other. I don't think you can ever have efficient um, space travel without having legit time travel.
So, speaking of that, there's something that's always stuck with me. I've referenced before in these episodes Isaac Arthur. Um, he's a futurist on YouTube. Great channel, great guy. Check him out. But he talks a lot about conceptual space travel. That's his big thing, is space travel, right? And the Fermi paradox, and the Fermi paradox is stating, essentially that if aliens exist, why haven't we seen them, right? Things like that. And it's a hypothetical answer to that. So he one time covered a subject that essentially was long term or more than light speed space travel. Okay. And different types of drives. And one thing he said was, we definitely have to be the most advanced species out there, just because if no other, I'm going to get this wrong when I paraphrase this, but essentially that by the time that we see the first evidence of another civilization in space, they will be moving so fast versus us that they will get to us before we actually see evidence of them, because they will outrun their own light. Do you understand what I'm saying? They'll outrun their own image coming to us, because that's just how fast that you would expand upon that, and how slow actually in relative, when you start talking about faster than light travel, light actually travels through space. And that it would essentially, I don't want to say essentially, it would theoretically become time travel, because when they're moving faster than light, they would be arriving at a point before what we deem to determine time has passed. Does that make sense?
It'd be like
They are
it'd be like,
outrunning the light.
like
and we
seeing
use
a
the light to
baseball
determine.
after it hits you in the face.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. They would be here before we see them. Because once we start talking about intergalactic travel, and we start talking about faster than light travel, FTL travel, whatever you want to call it, they're going to outrun their own shadow, essentially. So that's one thing that's been used to say, why haven't we seen the aliens? Well, because they're on their way, but they're outrunning their shadow to get here.
So in that sense, like,
So they're essentially time traveling.
would we ever see them at all?
Yeah, we'd see them whenever they pop up on the doorstep.
So when they're
We would
like,
never though.
if they show up,
If they come here,
show
I
up,
mean, if they're coming here, yeah,
they're
we'll see
they're
them.
they're moving faster than their light or whatever.
Mhm.
They show up, then go away before their light actually reaches us. Would we see them, or would they essentially, like,
We would see them. We would see,
if they traveled, but we would just see them late, I guess?
yes. So if they're going FTL, or faster than light travel, through the galaxy, and they pass us and they don't stop here, all we would see is the blur of them flying by, right? Just the wake of what was left. You wouldn't actually see them themselves. You would just see how they changed the world around their, their drive system, their propulsion system, how it affected essentially like a chemtrail through the sky, or something like that. That's all you would see of them. It's just that through the air. Now, if they stop to talk to us, then of course we would actually see them. But they are essentially time traveling, because they are outrunning what we use to determine time. Because what do we use to determine time? Light, the passage
Light.
of day, right? We use the light essentially to determine.
Yeah,
The
yeah. I
passage
mean,
of time.
time is a theory that we have came up with as humans.
Yes. It's not an actual
Time
thing.
may not be relative to like extraterrestrial beings' life. Like time may not affect them like
Hmm.
it does us.
Well, they did a
Like
study
we age and get
where it
older
was
and
that
eventually die, whereas they may not,
Hmm.
the faster you move, the slower time affects you, right? Where they took a clock and set it somewhere on Earth, and then they took a clock and put it in a craft that was moving at the exact same speed as the Earth, and it actually moved slow. The time actually affected the clock slower than
Yeah, I've heard
it
of
did
this
actually
kind of
on Earth.
theory before.
Yeah.
I've heard of this kind of thing
I also want to
before.
get back to your
Like certain parts of the Earth are
faster
technically
than.
rotating faster. Um,
Yes.
I think the one of the things is like if you're closer to the sun, you're technically rotating faster, right?
Yes.
So if you were to stick a person, say you were to stick a 5-year-old child on top of Mount Everest, and then you put a 5-year-old child inside the Marianas Trench and left him there for 30 years, 30 years by our standard or whatever, you would go back to them and they would be aged, technically aged differently because they were rotating at different speeds.
Yes, I think actually the distance is the effector there. Not necessarily the speed, but the distance. That because one is at such a deeper level and one's at such a higher elevation, I think that's the big cause actual there.
Hmm.
CJ, what were you trying to? You were saying
Yeah,
something.
I get the theory though. I've heard that.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
so
heard
what I was
that.
what I want to say about this. What I want to say about this though is that if you put a 5-year-old on Mount Everest and then a 5-year-old at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and you come back 30 years, uh, the 5-year-old at the bottom of the Marianas Trench wouldn't have aged at all because he would have drowned or been crushed to death. But what I was wanting to say
Is a theory,
is to go back
jackass.
to your faster than their image.
Yes.
Faster than their image, right? So
Yeah.
this entire time, like at the very end, it clicked to me what you were actually saying. What I was thinking was that they would reach us
Mhm.
before we would be able to see their civilization. Like, so what we're looking at, like, we're constantly looking into space trying to see
Well, yeah, that's part of it.
life
Yeah.
on a different planet,
Yeah, that's part of it.
but we're constantly looking in the past, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
even if there is life on the near whatever in one of the nearest solar systems,
Hmm.
if they reach us, we can look at them and we're still not going to see anything because they are so far away. They
Hmm.
might not actually even be alive in the image
Yep.
we're seeing.
Yep.
My head hurts after today.
No, yeah, and that's a big part of it. That's what I'm saying. Like, why we can't see that there is alien life is because, well, I mean, if someone was to look at us from their solar system, they wouldn't even see fire because, on a cosmic level, 10,000
Well, they
They
might
don't put
years
they
out
is
might
the
enough
blink
light,
of an
kind of
eye.
thing.
Do what?
So you're saying like there's a chance that they just don't put out enough light?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
so
just saying that
light
they haven't. They might
light can
be this intergalactic species that's traveling the solar system, but because they are moving faster than light throughout that solar system, we might not be seeing their civilization yet because the light from their civilization won't have reached us yet.
so it's like
Yeah.
anytime you look into space, you're consistently looking into the past because it is taking the image you're seeing is from however long ago it took that like the light started moving our way. So you're never seeing the exact same point. So you're not technically seeing in 2020, right? Whenever
Mhm.
you look at another solar system, like another planet, you're seeing
Yeah.
that planet in what 10,000, whatever, however many years ago.
Whatever the light year
Yeah,
difference
it's
is from
basically
you to
like
that planet.
saying the stars that we see now are already burnt out because their light has been traveling for so far that we're just now able to see them.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that point. I just thought you guys were trying to make like I thought you were trying to branch off and come up with a different kind of like theory on it. That's why I was getting confused. But anyways, I feel like we've talked a lot about backwards time travel,
Hmm.
and I want to kind of come on to forward time travel
Okay.
and the fact that the question, I guess, of is forward time travel even possible if everything is not already predetermined? So I guess it's
So a
kind of a
big one
question
is
of, it's kind of more of a question of, is everything predetermined?
Oh.
I don't think you can move in. I think at right now we are as far as it goes. Like we are in the farthest existence that happens.
So you're saying that we can't time
You
travel
cannot move
forward?
forward. You cannot go forward because it doesn't exist yet. The future does not exist. But you can go backwards because it's already happened. Right? So it's kind of like how you can't actually like you can't move faster than the speed of light.
So yeah,
Well,
it's kind of like you're saying that like it goes back on what you said earlier about how we wouldn't be able to time travel backwards any further than when we discovered time travel in the first place, because we wouldn't be able to solve that
Possible.
equation that far
Mhm.
back. Whereas we won't be able to solve that equation that far forward because that equation only relates to things that we've already experienced.
Well, it also goes to your anchor point one, right? You have to go. You go
Yeah.
back. You move backwards in time to somewhere wherever you are specifically, right? You can't go forward because there's never been anything more that's happened, right? You've experienced that. You could go back in time, stand where you are right now, and go back in time 5 years, and something will be different because that existed. But
Hmm.
you can't stand where you and move forward in time because it has not happened yet. I don't know if it's making
Yeah,
any
I
sense
get
at
what you're
all.
saying. Yeah, so
Yeah.
what you're basically saying is things are not predetermined.
Mm-mm.
And I think
but
that
No.
I would agree with you in a sense, because that is kind of. Well, see, we talked about the simulation theory and how if we are in a simulation, then wouldn't everything be controlled? Or is the simulation
Well, so
kind of
this
an algorithm in itself that's coming up with its own
and once to
equation,
say the
kind of like as we're
simulation,
going?
once you determine time travel, won't map out a future for you to go into.
well, here's the thing too. Here's a little paradox that I think just got created with the fact that you can't go forward. Somebody wouldn't be able to come back
To us.
because there actually isn't a future.
Holy shit.
Well,
So
we just disproved
So we
time
just
travel.
so we just caused a causal loop.
in our make believe solar system that we're talking about. Jesus
So we just
Christ.
yeah, we just created a causal loop by saying that we can't go forward because things aren't predetermined.
Hey, quick! Somebody stop this. Let's call NASA. We figured it out. We
But
got it.
but okay, so what if things are predetermined though?
So what if
What if we are in the simulation and it's being ran on a certain algorithm and things are going to play out the way that they're going to play out no matter what you do? Or even if you do this certain thing, it's going to play out this certain way, and the algorithm and the mathematical equation has been written.
Hmm.
And
Well, then, so that would
so
disprove the
basically,
multiverse, right?
it predetermines what's going to happen, and so you could time travel forward. So that's kind of a simulation theory thing. Or if you just want to believe in modern Christianity and religions in the first place, everything's determined by God, and it's already laid out on a certain scale, a certain timeline, and God already every knows. I mean, for example, I'm not. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that. I'll call somebody out, but I guess it'd be kind of rude. So I'm just gonna do it anyways. So say God wakes up 10 years from now and decides to increase that temperature a little bit and light the rest of California on fire. We could time travel to that because it's predetermined by God
So,
to set the
holy
temperature
shit.
for that
Okay.
day.
So,
Was that rude?
Nah.
Sorry if I offend anybody.
no, you're good. You're good. But in doing that, you just made me think about what we opened this with. Homie
What do
at the
we open this
bridge.
with?
Homie at the bridge.
Oh, yeah. We I've just spiraled out of control.
So, if he time traveled to that point in time, okay. Oh, hold on a second. I'm gonna hurt my head. I'm gonna hurt my head. Um, so it goes back to an anchor, something to grab onto, right? We talked about that earlier.
So here's the thing with that then. So if he traveled back to time at that point, that means time travel existed right then.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes. Yes. That means that we already have time travel. Because, and it
You
means
can't.
if your theory was correct, that we would have had to have time travel at that point in time too.
Yeah, so you can't bring. It has to already exist for you to be able to use it back then.
Yes.
But then also, if you went back in time, you couldn't then go forward because you're back in
See,
time and
okay,
forward never existed.
So that's why
hold
I
on.
like my idea.
So I just thought up a thing. So what if you can still time travel backwards even if time travel has not been invented at that point in time. Because even though the mathematical equation isn't there,
The capabilities there.
the numbers are still there.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So just because think of it as a code or something
Mhm.
like that, for example, ones and zeros, binary code. Even though the ones and zeros weren't arranged in that certain order to allow you to jump back to in time, at that point in time, the ones and zeros were still there. They just weren't arranged in the correct order.
Right.
So you can time travel back to that point, but at that point you're screwed because time travel doesn't not exist in that era. So you can't come back forward
Unless you like have some kind of remote or something.
unless you have a way to build the equation.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. But
But
see, that's
if
all.
you have the
all
knowledge of
that
the equation to go back in the first place, then you would have the knowledge of the equation to go
come
forward,
back.
maybe.
Yeah, you would.
That
Or
kind of correlates to like the
does it
whole
completely
thing that
erase
if
does it completely erase everything that's already happened?
I mean, I think personally, I think once you step foot in that reality, I mean, if it's a multiverse and if we have a diverging timelines, then I don't think you screw everything up. But I think the moment you step foot, it erases nearly everything that happens for the next however many years because of the butterfly effect. Because the moment you change one thing, it's going to change everything that one thing caused. And I think your presence alone is going to change enough to change everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you step into that, when you step out of the current, step out of the water, so to say, that causes a ripple effect basically
Exactly. Yeah.
onto your future that you traveled from.
Hmm.
So your present day changes. So yeah, it goes back to our causal loop thing. If your
Yes.
present day changes, then how does that affect the past? And then it just goes back and forth.
That's why, as I when I said earlier, I talked about the whole time rift thing versus time travel. That's why, or like even like Stargate or something like that. If everybody's familiar with like the Stargate shows, anything like that, I think that almost a time rift is isn't I'm maybe not safer or maybe not a better option, but a more plausible option is that we would find a rift in the time continuum. We would be able to use that rift to go back and forth between that and some set point on the other end, some set time on the other
See,
end. Now you're still going to change everything. You're still going to screw it all up. I don't
yeah,
see any way you avoid that.
that's I'm really upset right now, honestly, because I have wanted time travel. I've always wanted time travel to be real, and it's something that has always interested me. And I've never been able to argue against myself so much to completely change my mind on something. And I think I've done it in this episode. I think that I have talked myself out of time travel being real with
I think I
the
have too.
with two things. I think reverse time travel, such as like time traveling to the past, I think it has become impossible with everything we've stated about causal loops. Whereas if one thing happens, it sets off this reaction, which causes your present to change, which causes your past to change, which causes your present to change again, and it just goes back and forth, and it completely eliminates the time travel in the first place.
Yes.
That or like that's the thing is I have more theories now that what's the word I'm looking for? Deny time travel? Not deny.
Denounce.
Denounce. Thank you. I have more theories now that kind of denounce time travel than that support it. So between the causal loop thing, CJ's theory about the equation thing where you can't time travel back, seeing as how time travel didn't exist back then, um, I think those two right there pretty much just knock past time travel out for me. And then forward time travel with predeterminism, that raises a couple other questions like, are we in the simulation? If so, what kind of simulation are we in? Are we
Mhm.
in a simulation that's building on itself currently as we're in it, and the algorithm just continues to build off of what we're currently in and what we're currently doing, and that's how it plugs in the numbers and creates a future? Or is it that the algorithm's already written and it knows what's going to happen next?
Oh my gosh.
Or is it what most people believe in, and is it predeterminism based on God? And God has already chosen the path for the world and the path for you and me and whoever else, and you can time travel to that point
It's predetermined.
because it's already happened, it's already predetermined, it's laid out in a certain path. Would God let you time travel in the first place? Even if you could, would he allow, if he has the ability to control what's going to happen in the future, is he going to allow you to see it? I don't think so. So even if predeterminism was real in that sense, I don't think you would ever be allowed to reach it.
I don't think you would either. And if time travel was real, if all these theories that we're tossing out today that actually prove to, as you said, denounce time travel, if those theories are just shit and time travel's real and there's some other thing that our minds couldn't even wrap around in the reason that time travel is real, okay? If the formula got out, everybody in the world, I mean everybody with every programmer, every company would be biting at the chance to create their own time travel machine or programming so that they could come back. And I think that it would almost, the moment it happened, you would know because everybody else would know. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way to
Yeah.
keep that secret.
Yeah, time travel wouldn't really be much of a secret at all, I don't think. 'Cause like I'm a huge history buff. Anybody that knows me knows that. And I would love to time travel to just different points in time.
Hmm.
I mean, uh, I can think of like 10 different points in time right now that's a question I have. We'll end on that here in just a second. I want to branch off something that I completely just forgot. Shit. But anyways, yeah, I don't think time travel would really be much of a secret. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. I'm a little disappointed because the theories that I have had about everything so far, such as simulation theory, the Anunnaki, Bigfoot, aliens, all that shit that I actually believe in and that I think is true and that I try to prove is the stuff that has no scientific backing to it whatsoever. And then you have time travel over here, which actually has like a lot of like research and a lot of physics and a lot of like scientific like backing of it basically.
Hmm.
And I'm over here saying it's not true. So I don't know. Maybe I'm like an anti-scientist or something. But that's just what I'm getting at. Like all this random like theory crafting shit that I'm coming up with about ancient aliens and a civilization coming and visiting us and nuking us has no scientific evidence whatsoever, but I wholeheartedly agree in it. And then you have on the flip side of that this thing that has actually been researched by physicists, and I disagree with it. Gracious. Yeah,
Gosh.
I don't know. It's just weird.
These last couple
Sorry.
episodes, I
Yeah.
end them and I just have to sit here and think for a few minutes. You know, I just have to be like, what? Like, I have to let myself wind down and decompress everything we just talked about, everything we just researched, and go from there because every single one, I almost find something that changes how I feel about everything. You know, how I perceive everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I
What
don't know.
was
I
your
feel like
what
I
was your
always get
question? You
real
said you had a
deep.
question you wanted to wind down on?
Oh, yeah. So we'll kind of end it with this. I want to get y'all's top 3 points in history you would time travel to if you could.
Okay. You gonna go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, Normandy Beach, D-Day.
Okay.
Oh, I was not prepared.
Question.
Yeah, Normandy Beach, D-Day. What's another good one? And there's just a lot that I want to go to. Um, I want to say the first shots of the Revolutionary War, so Lexington and
Mm-hmm.
Concord. I feel like those are really pivotal points in American history.
That's
And I want
cool.
to be. No, I already picked a World War II one. I can't do two World War II ones. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the third, honestly. I'll keep thinking. I'll let you go. You boys go. Maybe we'll just do top two. Give me two, because that's all I can think of right now.
All right. So okay, you want me to? I got one. I know one for sure. And this is just part of just to help because of us being like so into conspiracy theories and of the such. Uh, was it Dealey Plaza
Yes.
in 1963 when JFK got
JFK.
assassinated? Just to be able to qual to confirm if there were
Mm-hmm.
multiple gunshot wounds or gunshot sounds, I
Yeah.
guess. Uh,
That's a good
and
one.
my second one, man, where would my second one be? Do you have any, Woody?
Yo, dude, I got a list longer than my arm. You want me to
So
go ahead
you
and
can go
toss one
ahead
out
and
there while
yeah,
you think about
go
another
ahead
one?
and do one
Yeah,
because
Okay,
give
I've
us
got
my
another one.
this is a good
my
this is a good question.
number one. Where I'm going. 55 BC, the cliffs of Dover, Kent, in England, when Julius Caesar arrives the first time in England and first steps foot on English soil, meets with the Iceni and meets with the Cian and all the different tribes of England and starts the Gaelic Wars. That's number one for me. Do you want me to go ahead with number two?
Yeah, go ahead because this
Yeah,
is a
if you
good
got
question. Like I'm
do three. If you have three, then go for it.
Okay, number two is definitely. Sorry, I'm getting judged from my compatriot here in the back, I believe. Oh, never mind, maybe not. Number two is the Battle of Abrichis. It was the Scythians versus the predecessors to the Persians. Huge, massive battle. I'm super fascinated with Scythians. And there's a recent pop culture to Scythians. Has anybody seen The Old Guard on Netflix?
I've started it, but I haven't actually uh, watched really
Okay,
anything
well
into the
it's
first
a
episode.
recent movie on Netflix, and Charlize Theron's character is actually a Scythian. Um, but essentially, just any of the Scythian campaigns, really, because they fought from horseback, and that's where you get your Amazon warriors. You hear about like Amazon women warriors. It's from the Scythians. Um, so I think that that would be really cool to see because a lot of their battles were fought on horseback. Like they would send their entire army, thousands of people in as a cavalry, like no infantry, no archers, just cavalry. If you want me to go ahead with three, I'll go ahead with three. I want to know what happened to Percy Fawcett. I would go to where Percy Fawcett was last seen in the Amazon rainforest in was like 1922, 23. I think it was Percy Fawcett went missing. Um, Percy Fawcett, if you guys are familiar with him, he was a British explorer, I guess would be the proper word. Worked for the essentially like the mapping service of Britain, and he was fascinated with the lost city of what he called the lost city of Z. It's essentially he's been proven right now, but 1925 is whenever he goes missing. But him and his son went out on his final expedition to the Amazon and never returned. But a lot of people, there's a lot of conjecture on how he went missing because supposedly like his watch comes back like 5 years later, and supposedly he told a local to take his watch to his wife in England and say, "Hey, we found the lost city of Z, and we're living here." So I want to know what happened there. So that's my 3.
So my number 2 is I'm going to go back to about November 17th of 2019. And I want to go to Wuhan, China,
Oh, that's okay.
because I want to know, are we going back to be able to affect the future? Is that what we're getting to do?
We're
Or is
just
it a no?
observing. We're just
We're
observing.
just
Just
observing.
observing.
Yeah, I still
Just
want
there
to go
witness
back.
what happened.
Just to the, was it the fish market or the
Yeah, the
where
exotic
there's
animal market. Yeah.
yeah, I want to go there. Then I also want to go back again, and I want to go to the lab,
Hmm.
just to witness both of these possibilities. Because
Okay, I got my third. I'm gonna plug in a fourth one and an honorable mention just because I can. It's my question. Leave me alone. So number 3, probably Thermopylae
Oh yes. Oh,
with a 300,
the hot gates.
just to watch those freaking studs
Mm.
lay some scunion on some Persian fools. But yeah, so that's probably my third, and the fourth would probably be the first opening day of the Colosseum in Rome.
That'd be pretty cool.
The first like battle between gladiators in Rome. And then
Could you?
honorable mention is to go back to the Sumerian times and see the Anunnaki for myself.
so
Okay,
my
fair.
third one would be actually would be to go back and see the first time like fire was actually discovered, right? So like it's been around or whatever, but the
Watch him
first
freak out.
time, yes, so like a Homo sapien or a bipedal organism discovered fire and like interacted with it, just to see
Isn't that?
I
and
think
and to see how it started, if it was given to them, if it
Yeah. And isn't that actually cooked meat? Isn't that actually what a lot of people say kickstarted our evolution? Was eating cooked meat. It
I
increased
think that
our
was like
brain power.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is actually one of the like starting points
Yeah.
for where
So
we
that I mean
come
Something
that would be a
from.
about
huge
cooking the
point.
meat. Cooking the meat like releases certain like enzymes and shit like that in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So
allows
kill. I
for
mean, it also,
exponential growth.
but it also kills like certain bacteria and organisms in that would inhibit other
Yeah,
things, right? And it would cause you
yeah,
to develop other stuff.
yeah. Anyways, we've gone on for much longer than we expected to, but we kind of varied from our original topic. We started off thinking we were going to talk about
Instantly.
simulation theory, and instantly went the total weird direction. But that's what we're here for. So thanks everybody for coming and joining us and following us down the rabbit hole. And again, thanks you guys for joining me this week. And we'll see everybody next time.
Toodaloo.
All right, it's been great. Thank you.